Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Speaker Circle. This week, tonight, we are doing a special roundtable with some of my communication fabulous favorites. Joining me right now, let me take this off the screen. I have with me Miss Sherry Triplett. Welcome, Sherry.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for being here today. We also have Miss Cynthia Johnson. Hey, Cynthia.
Hi, Leesa. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, Cynthia.
Thank you so much. We have Minnie Jawar. How are you,
Minnie? Good. How about you?
Great. Welcome, welcome. And then we also have Mr. Derek C. Lott. Hey, Derek.
Evening. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening. One of the things that I have in common with all these dynamic individuals is we all are members of Toastmasters, and not just Toastmasters International, but we each are a member of an advanced club called Global Leaders Advanced, where we like to take our communication to the next level. So what I would like to do is to hear from each of you. Tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your communication journey. Like, what made you want to grow your communication? And I'm going to give each of you the floor. So we will start with Sherry. You tell us a little bit about you and why you are so passionate about your communication.
Well, I had joined the Navy and I gave several training sessions and I really enjoyed them. I had a good time. I liked showing people things. I didn't mind speaking in front of crowds. And about 10 years later, a job opportunity came open and I was so excited because it was an HR trainer and I got to talk more in front of people. So my problem was not talking in front of others. I really loved it because if I had a message, I was very excited to share it. A few years after that, my coworker said, "Why don't you come to Toastmasters?" And I said, "What is that?" And I was afraid at first. I said, "I don't want to write speeches all the time." But I realized once she started talking to me, she said, "You'll learn how to introduce people, how to give good feedback. You'll learn how to move with purpose." And she just talked about one of the wonderful things, so many wonderful things about Toastmasters. And because she made it sound so intriguing, I said, I have to visit. And it only took one visit and I joined.
And how long have you been a member of Toastmasters?
I joined, I believe, in February of 2015.
Wow, so that's great. 5 years. And thank you so much for your service, especially with Veterans Day coming up. We really appreciate it. I know your son is also serving our country. So
yes.
I tell you, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? Thanks, Sherry. Now we're going to go to Cynthia and hear from her. As far as Cynthia, tell us a little bit about your background and your communication journey.
Well, I'm originally from New York, born and raised in Queens. And at that time, people used to always say, "You love to talk," which was true. I did love to talk. And my passion at that time was to actually go into broadcast journalism. I took my major I had a dual major. It was TV, radio, journalism, and also computer science. But my passion led me to computer science. However, throughout my career, my life, I've had the opportunity to speak before people, both on radio as well as television. Most notably, I spoke when I was the lector at St. Patrick's Cathedral. I actually did the midnight mass, which is a great honor to be able to do midnight mass with. Then it was the Cardinal Dolan. So it was great to be able to speak before people. I'm used to speaking before people. I still get nervous. But it's just been a wonderful journey. When I moved from New York to Florida, my company had a corporate club. I joined it April 1st, 2014. It was not an April Fool's joke because I've been with Toastmasters for the past 6 years and it's just been wonderful. And it has helped me to see that communication is important, and it has helped me to hone my skills and to meet all of my wonderful friends, which you all will meet tonight.
Wow. Well, thank you, Cynthia. I say you have the most amazing voice. Ever since I've met you, you're very calm and clear. So I love your communication style. And thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go over to Miss Minnie. Minnie, tell us a little bit about your background and your communication journey.
Sure. I always wanted to develop communication skills, both in my professional as well as in my personal life. I'm considered to be a woman of few words among my coworkers, my family, and my friends. So when I joined Toastmasters, it was to get over the fear of public speaking and develop that communication skills. I look at it as like you going on a Uber ride. I knew exactly where I want to go, but you really have to tell them where to be picked up. So you have to know where you are. So after my first speech, I realized where I was. And then I realized it's such a long ride for me from where I want to go. But I had my fellow Toastmasters, my fellow passengers. They told me it should be fine. I'll be fine because they're going to help me. So today I am a member of 3 clubs. I know that it helped me get started with my home club. It was good. I was able to do a lot of speeches. But when I really came to global leaders, since it's an advanced club, I met so many great speakers that I knew I would be able to polish and refine my skills and take my speeches to the next level.
That is powerful. That is powerful.
And I love it here.
I love it. And what a great analogy about taking a trip, but you need to know where you're starting because self-realization is so important. And your speech that you had at our last meeting was great. So I think you are a phenomenal speaker, and I'm so excited to have you here today as part of the panel.
Thank you.
Great. And last but not least, our gentleman of the group. He's not only a gentleman, but he's a scholar, Mr. Derek C. Lott. For those of you who don't know, he has a book called Say It Well. So tell us a little bit about your background and your communication journey.
Sure. I've been in a corporate environment probably 25 plus years, and in the different roles that I've played, communication has been everything. And so when a couple of friends invited me to participate in Toastmasters about 7 years ago, I didn't jump at the chance. I went reluctantly, but I actually picked up a few things. And in that learning, I realized that communication skills, bar none, most important skill set anyone can work on. It impacts your personal, professional, spiritual, social. No other skill has the ability to propel you forward in your career than a handy set of communication skills. So I continue to work on it and really love the power that's unleashed by having a good set of effective communication skills.
That is awesome. And we'll definitely get more into everyone's journey. Thank you so much for being here, Derek. I'm going to add all of our lovely panelists back. I just love this. It's like we're on Hollywood Squares, right? So now that we have a brief background of all of you, tell us, for our viewers out there who don't know what Toastmasters is or are teetering about it, what are some of the biggest value adds that you've received by being in a club of like-minded communicators? Whoever wants to start.
I can go first.
Okay, Sherry.
Communications, as we all know, is about listening and speaking. It's both. And we've already touched on it a little bit when we talked about global leaders, and that is a great club that gives you really good information on how to give feedback and receive feedback. And I think that's part of communications, which a lot of people don't think about. So my biggest value is, how do I give feedback and how do I receive feedback? There are so many ways that you can learn to listen in Toastmasters. And I've learned that through some of the roles. For example, if I am checking people's grammarian as the grammarian and I'm watching, are they using the right tense? Are they staying in the same area? I pay more attention to what they're saying. And it makes me think about myself. When I'm communicating, am I really communicating clearly? Or another role is if I'm an evaluator, I'm going to listen to somebody's speech and then I'm going to evaluate them and give good feedback. It's helped me in other areas too when I'm in a meeting that's not Toastmasters, but in a work meeting, and I'm about to say something to somebody else in the meeting. I think about my Toastmasters experience and I say, all right, I need to give some feedback to something. I need to listen to something, and I'm able to take all of those great nuggets that I've learned and apply them outside of Toastmasters. So I would say learning to give good feedback and learning how to receive good feedback, because it's always good to get feedback.
That's powerful. I totally agree. I think that's what scaled up. How about you, Minnie or Cynthia or Derek? Have you all had a different perspective of what you think the value add of Toastmasters is?
I would say the value add is when you go to a Toastmasters meeting, your peers, the other Toastmasters, will help you, pointing out the areas that you are weak in, that need to be polished up. And they encourage you all the way. So it's not an environment where you criticize, but you're gently, through the evaluation, shown ways to improve. For example, when I started going to Toastmasters, I had a buddy that used to come with me. My buddy's name was Ann So. Whenever I gave a speech, whenever I was talking, I would always say, and so, and so. And the grammarian would point, and also the odd counter would point out, your speech was very good. You said X number of ands, X number of so's, and you also had and so. Who is and so? They listened to my speech and how I was delivering it. It helped me to actually be more conscious of what I'm saying. Now my buddy and so doesn't follow me along as much.
Oh my God, that was
added benefit.
Wow. Now, Minnie, I know you mentioned in your introduction how it's like an Uber ride. Was it difficult to get like feedback, or do you think it was something that you were really open to at that time when you started to come to Toastmasters?
Yes, I really like all the feedback that I received, so that I would try to incorporate that feedback every time I speak. Not just in speeches, even in my personal life, I've noticed that I'm always acting like a Toastmaster. Every time I speak, I'm like cognizant of the clutch words and everything. So, and even when I'm sitting there and listening to something, my kids sometimes joke about this. She probably would make this in Toastmaster speech. I became a bit better listener too. I was never a good listener, so I really started listening in this, becoming an active listener in the process. You simply don't listen to reply, but you are actually taking in everything and reflecting on it. So that
Wow.
was important. And I always use, when I speak, I learn to choose my words carefully and to come across in a very effective manner.
Oh, that's
I
powerful.
always, before I used to think, whenever I wanted to avoid conflicts, I would keep quiet. That is not the right way, but I am able to voice my opinions without causing a conflict or confrontation. So those are some of the things I learned.
That's great. And to round it up, Derek, about value, I know you made a comment in your introduction. When you first were introduced to Toastmasters, you weren't going willingly. Do you feel like the value you've received has now outweighed that apprehension you had in the beginning?
Absolutely. If you take a look at the Toastmasters curriculum, when you get started, it really assesses where you are in your communication skills, what skills you bring readily, and then allows you to improve from there with more advanced lessons, more advanced speeches that you can work on. And I began to learn things that really captivated me and drove me into the process and hooked me. And I think that's what I continue to explore in Toastmasters. And the meeting is a lab. It's like lab when you were in college. You go to the lab, you practice on speeches, you get feedback on speeches. No other place that I've been to, no other course or anything like that has ever given me the amount of lab work that you can get in a Toastmasters club. Minnie mentioned she was in 3 clubs. I was in 5 at one point, and I was speaking all the time. Can you imagine how good you can get if you are out there in the lab constantly working on your communication skills? You're going to be a powerhouse, and your effective communication skills will go through the roof. And I think the other thing that the speaker said tonight is key. It's a positive and supportive environment. The people are rooting you on, cheering you on. They're working on the same things that you're working on. And that's a powerful situation to find yourself in when you're trying to work on. I haven't found it anywhere. I've looked other places. There really isn't anything like Toastmasters. There are other places where you can go that talk about communication and effective communication skills, but the ability to practice, get the feedback, and the amount of times you can practice. You can go to a Toastmasters club 7 days a week, 24/7, all around the world. It's been amazing how much access you have to be able to work on this critical skill.
I love your analogy of the lab, because I often say, and this is my value add, that Toastmasters is the gym for your leadership and communication. And with anything, if you want to get better, you have to go to the gym, or even if you wanted to become a better tennis player or a cook or whatever the case may be, you have to practice. So I love that analogy. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. Communication sometimes is very positive, but there are times where there are people who are difficult to communicate. Or now that you've been enlightened and you've been in the lab, you may have stronger communication skills. So how do you all bridge the gap with somebody who does not have as good communication skills with you? What are some of the techniques that you use to help do that? And we'll kick it off with you, Sherry, since you were the last one who spoke first.
I think if somebody's having a little bit of trouble communicating, I think one of the things I learned was how to organize my speeches when I give them in Toastmasters, because I have an idea in my head. I'm going to tell them this, this, and this. And at the end of the speech, sometimes people would come up to me and they would say, I loved your speech about, and they'd give me a different answer. And it wasn't what I was really talking about. So through Toastmasters, through the communication skills that I've learned, I learned how to organize my speeches in a manner so that the listeners were really picking up what I was putting down. Wow. And I think a lot of us, we want to get a message across, maybe to inspire or just to inform, and we think we've got it, it's great, and we don't sometimes realize that that message was not received properly. The great thing about Toastmasters is you get so much feedback from your evaluator, from a mentor, and you're able to find any misunderstandings that you have, and you're able to refine that so that you can reach out to others better. And then when they come to you for help, you already know how to assist them.
Love that. I really love that perspective. For you, Cynthia, how do you work through it? I know you have some experience in corporate America, and you're very mild-tempered with your voice. So I don't know if sometimes, how do you deal with that if someone's louder? How do you deal with those conflicts?
Nowadays, I exercise lots of patience.
That's true.
And I've learned even in Toastmasters to pace yourself, to first think about, listen to what the person is saying, and then to respond.
Yes.
I recently had a situation where it was a difficult conversation. It started to be a very difficult conversation. And you have to try to not let the emotions take over, because you may end up saying the wrong thing at that time. So I've learned with patience, practicing to not say anything, to listen, and then to speak, and to speak slowly and low.
If they go high, you go low.
I go low. Because, yes, in the excitement, my voice will rise. And because it's higher pitched anyway, it will be higher pitched.
And will that New York come out? Will some of that New York come out?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. So I've learned to just try to calm myself, speak low, Try not to let the emotion get in the way of communicating back, to try to diffuse whatever that situation may be. And if it needs to be tabled, then it's good to say, you know what? This is not a good time. Neither one of us are communicating. I'm not listening to you, and you are not listening to me. So let's do this at another time. And that's one of the things that I've also learned within Toastmasters, that it's okay to push back at times, especially when you get an evaluation. You listen. And afterwards, after the session has finished, you can speak to that evaluator and ask them, why was your evaluation about such and such this way?
Yes. Wow. That is powerful. And that really requires self-control. So I commend you for that. I want to touch on, for you, Minnie, with the communication differences, especially with English being a second language. I know my mom also, English is her second language. How do you deal with that and kind of the difference in communication if people are not really understanding where you're coming from, or if you're having to break down some barriers with that? What are some of the skills that you've learned?
I started to speak more confidently after being a Toastmaster. Nice. Especially when people tell me, oh, sometimes they start the conversation with, oh, I would like to speak with someone who is local. They think that I'm not here in the United States. So I bring the humor that I have learned from Toastmaster. One time somebody asked me, oh, which country are you in? And I said, I am in the country of Jacksonville, Florida. So I would bring in that humor.
That's good. That's good.
And even, the person laughed at me and said, okay. And once they get past the first part, I feel like they are in tune with what I'm saying, and I will start saying things slower, clearer, and they are able to understand me. And I constantly work on that, as well as, since it's my second language, I work on pronouncing things correctly, learn from the other speakers that I am constantly seeing in Toastmasters. So I'm able to learn a lot of things from them. And the evaluation portion also has helped me tremendously, because every situation has something good and something bad. So I always start with a good thing and compliment people, and then come to the part that needs work on and say it in a really effective way so that they are able to understand.
That is powerful, and I appreciate you sharing that. And it really is self-awareness for all of us to not be judgmental. Just don't assume. You should ask clarifying questions. So that's really great. And to wrap up this question about communicating with different barriers and things, Derek, tell us a little bit from your perspective. I know you not only are a pretty successful person in the corporate world, but in personal life with children and things that, or even people who may not be getting it. What are some of the tips that you use to level up?
I'd first like to say I'd like to go in the middle next time because everybody stole my answers.
Oh,
I'd like to start there.
Okay.
In all seriousness, to add to what has already been said, I think the most important thing is separating the emotional from the intellectual. Because most of the time when we get into that tug of war, it's because someone's emotions have been touched, and we get sensitive and we get defensive, and then it's very hard to hear. I love what Cynthia said about cooling off period. I loved about patience, someone said before, and there's so much of that goes into difficult conversations. Maybe we can't have it right now, but the other thing is, am I in my emotions? Am I self-aware? The other thing I would say about Toastmasters that I'll point out is that, sure, we're practicing, we're doing things, but I have heard each one of you talk about your lives over the last 6 years, your experiences, examples where you've tried different things. Could you imagine over 6 years, I may have heard thousands of speeches from other Toastmasters. Do you think I picked up something from that? Do you think I've learned something from that? you pick up so much about how to navigate difficult circumstances just from hanging out and hearing the experiences of others. So also be a student and listen to what others have done to navigate some difficult circumstances. So I would add those thoughts on top of the brilliance that's already been shared.
I love that. Thank you very much. And I know the universal theme here is listening, listening. I know my grandmother used to always say, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you should listen twice as much as you speak. So we'll round another round of questions, and Derek, we'll start with you. What do you say? Now,
it's tough going last. It's like everybody's got all those good answers. I'm like,
and I've heard this objection where when you are in Toastmasters, people feel like you may be too critical, or you're too you're too good. You communicate so well, I can't keep up with you. So what are some of the things you say to help counteract that or make people feel more comfortable? Because we, just like with certain people, when you feel like you're smarter than someone else, you may try to dumb things down. And I think communication is the same way. Sometimes when we are better communicators, you try to dumb down your communication to make other people feel comfortable. So what are some strategies that you do to help them level up?
Well, I think the important thing is to remember that positive and supportive environment. This isn't the workplace. This is a testing ground for you to work on your communication skills. So I don't try to back off, because I want them to see how well they can communicate over time. My first speech in Toastmasters was 10 seconds. 10 seconds. I don't know if any of you were there. It was the craziest thing. I thought I had everything down, and I was dumbfounded, speechless. 10 seconds, went and sat down. And so people talk about, hey, Derek, you're an award-winning speaker, you're so much. It all starts with a single step and not being intimidated. Everybody wants you to progress and improve. And so take the journey, build your confidence, because what did they say? A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Just take your step and keep taking those steps. And remember, you have a positive and supporting environment to take those steps in that journey.
That's fantastic. 10 seconds. I got to get into the files to hear about that speech. Now, Minnie, tell us a little bit about what was your best feedback. Maybe it was hard to swallow, but the best feedback you've ever received from a Toastmasters meeting, and how it changed something that you did in your communication.
I had some harsh feedbacks too. And one time there was a Toastmaster who told me that, well, I really like her, but I don't understand anything she says. It can be hard at times, but every time someone gives you a constructive feedback, I think they're taking the time to do that. That's a compliment. You work on it. Someone felt that they didn't understand me. So I need to work on that and make sure that everybody understands me. So I simply work on it and not get upset or angry at them, but take that feedback and constantly work on it. So every constructive feedback is a compliment. If they don't give you feedback, then they are not my well wishers. They don't want me to improve. So that's how I look at it.
I love it, that growth mindset. Speaking of feedback, Cynthia, tell us a little bit about leadership feedback, because you are the president of our Global Leaders Advance. You recently got your DTM, congratulations, which stands for Distinguished Toastmasters. That's the highest designation. Sherry and Derek also share those, and Minnie is well on her way to get her DTM. So tell us, leadership-wise, Cynthia, what's some of the feedback or growth opportunities you've had in Toastmasters to help you with your leadership?
That's a great question, Leesa, because Toastmasters is not only known for helping to develop your communication skills to be able to speak confidently, but also to be a leader, to use those speaking skills in various arenas, whether you're at work, in church, in the community, at home with your family. There's all different ways you can be a leader. In the club, we have officers. We have 7 officers, and that's an area where you can develop leadership skills. You can move beyond the club level to the area, to be an area director. I am currently an area director under the Division F. You can also be a division director who's over the area directors, and then you can go even higher to work as the district, the district director, or you can be the club growth director, or you can go as high as being the international president. There are so many different leadership opportunities within Toastmasters, and at each level, it helps you to develop yourself. It gives you the opportunity to develop, and you don't have to worry about failure. It helps you to build confidence because you have a network of people here that will be there for you and to guide you along the way and to point out the various areas that you can improve. Or if you need a coach or a mentor, there's somebody there that will coach you and mentor you along your leadership path. So Toastmasters is a great place for learning how to be a leader.
That is fantastic. And I appreciate all of your leadership. Always been a great example to all of us. Now, Sherry, I know you have your military background, and Toastmasters is really regimented. Do you feel like having that military background and coming to a social club like Toastmasters, did you find a lot of comfort in the structure and the different roles and how the meeting is so organized?
I do like the fact that we do have the agenda, and a lot of the military functions, we had agendas. Those are important because nobody likes to fly blind, and they wonder what's going to happen and how long is this going to be, and do I need anything? Who's going to get up and speak? And the great thing about Toastmasters is we do have this regimented. Some people don't like that, and they try to fight against it, but I have found that it works best. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of what I also do. Because of Toastmasters, I volunteer in the local prisons. And some of the clubs resisted the agenda for a little while, and they didn't really want to follow the agenda. They wanted to do what they wanted to do themselves in their club meetings. And we had to try to show them, and I'm the mentor to one of the clubs at Lottie Correctional. And by using the agenda that we had and all of the the items that they needed to do, and the fact that they had to have so many speeches and had to have so many evaluators assigned to them was very helpful. And I think, as anybody needs, when you're growing up, you need to have boundaries. You need to know what you need to do. And I think the great way about Toastmasters, it has implemented the same thing, just like the military, just like anywhere. So I really like the fact that it uses something so basic that everybody follows. And many of us have visited other clubs, some of us in other countries, Cynthia has and I have. It's the same meeting, so you know what's going to happen. You already feel comfortable before you even get there because you know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. I love it. I know we're coming at the top of the hour. So before first of all, thank you everybody who's on the panel. Thank you everyone who's watching. We have our Global Leaders Advance. The difference between the Advance Club is our club is a little bit more intense. We definitely give you a lot more pliable feedback. I know it has helped me leaps and bounds in my communication. This Saturday, we have an open house and everybody's invited. You don't have to be a member of Toastmasters to come and check it out. So it'll be this Saturday from 9 to 11. It's also on Meetup. So look up Global Leaders on Meetup, and you will be able to hear speeches from all these phenomenal individuals that'll be a little bit longer. As we get ready to wrap up, I just want to do another round robin and have each of you give just your golden nugget of communication. What is your one value add that you would like to share with everyone and how it can make an impact? We will start with Minnie. We'll go Minnie, Derek, Sherry, and then Cynthia, you can close us out. How about that?
Sure. One thing I noticed was I came here to develop communication skills, but I accidentally or unintentionally discovered the leader in me as well.
Wow.
So there is a simultaneous growth of leadership, in this. So that was amazing to notice that I do make an impact on people with my speeches, I'm able to positively impact them and inspire them. So that was a great thing that I discovered from being a Toastmaster.
That's awesome. And we're just so grateful to have you. I'm glad that you're a part of our club. We love all the value that you add. So Derek, tell us, what's your golden nugget of communication for everyone to take? And for those of you, check out Derek Lott's website to get the book so you can learn how to say it well and actually physically read about it.
Thanks. I would say the reason a lot of people come to Toastmasters is because of a term, glossophobia, or the fear of public speaking. And what I've learned in my journey is the more I build my confidence, the more the fear subsides. It never goes away. I still get nerves and get a little jittery anytime I speak, especially in front of this distinguished panel. But as I educate myself on communication and become better and I practice, I become more confident in those skills and I see that fear subside. And that's led to a lot of fruit. A book, I have other books coming out. I speak in certain forums. I speak at work. People ask me to do speeches. And it's all an overflow of working on my communication skills. So as you get better, if you really struggle with the fear of speaking, build your confidence. Don't focus on the speaking so much. Build your confidence and watch that fear subside.
That is powerful. Thank you so much, Derek. Sherry, tell us your golden nugget, our takeaway for everybody.
One of the reasons I delayed in joining Toastmasters is the fact that I was afraid I wouldn't have any topics to discuss. But what I've learned is everybody has a message. I've learned so many things. I've learned about diabetes and heart problems. I've learned about IT security. I've learned about getting fit. I've heard so many stories about children that I could laugh for weeks. And if the reason you are afraid to join is because you are afraid you don't have a message, of course you have a message. You have so many messages, you hadn't even thought about it. And at one time, Derek Lott gave a speech about where to get ideas. And he helped us to funnel in and find out, oh, I have a message about this, and this. So everyone has a message and we would love to hear them.
Oh, I love that. I remember that. It was all the idea bubbles. You had us do a mind map.
Yeah.
You did.
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Well, Cynthia, tell us what your golden nugget and takeaway is for our audience.
The most important thing is to build up your confidence by momentum. I found that the more I did it as far as giving speeches or volunteering in the club as a functionary, the counter, the grammarian, the speech evaluator, which at first I did not want to do. I did not want to evaluate anybody. But the more I did it, I built up this momentum. And that's the one thing you should do. Build up the momentum. Don't let the fear of, I'm not going to do it right. They're not going to like me. Don't let that stop you. Second of all, I would say is patience. Don't beat up on yourself. Yes. That's one of the things I used to do as well. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to evaluate them right. Don't think like that because we are there to support each other. So patience and be yourself, smile, and enjoy that moment. Those would be the nuggets that I would say.
Thank you so much. And I would just like to encourage everyone that it's easy to say you want to do better, you want to grow, but you have to take action. And Toastmasters is a great place for you to start. Take that action with like-hearted and like-minded individuals. I have not been to a club yet where I haven't felt welcome or I haven't learned or laughed or grown in some capacity. So I want to thank our panel again. Please, you can see all of these phenomenal people on Saturday for the Global Leaders Advanced Open House. I will have the link on my page as well as they'll all share it on their social media pages if appropriate. And it's on Meetup. So if you are on Meetup, please look at it. I tell you, Derek, Minnie, Sherry, and Cynthia, thank you again for your time and your talents. And thank you all who are listening to us here on Speaker Circle, where we are all about a growth mindset. Have an amazing evening, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.